I was curious about this because I saw some of these ads on my Twitter feed. Over in Seattle, the city that you know, that the CIA occasionally deploys me to when I don't have business in Langley, there's a city ordinance that adds an additional automatic like $5 like extra tip to drivers for delivery apps, in addition to like the regular tip. You know, like it goes directly to the driver. It doesn't go to the corporation. It was done to provide a better living wage for delivery drivers. And there were these ads that I saw from the, wait, hold on. Washington Alliance for Innovation and Independent Work. Okay, so these people are ghouls, right? Like, they paid for these ads. We are a coalition of consumers, independent workers, small businesses, app-based services, and community leaders from across Washington state. So this is like, these are like corpo gig economy proselytizers, okay? So we don't trust them, we don't like them. However, I saw these ads and I wanted to take a look because I didn't feel very good about this ordinance either. Oh, what?
A new Seattle City ordinance designed to give food delivery app drivers a more livable wage is backfiring. That's according to the drivers themselves. They're telling us they're making half of what they used to earn. The new $5 fee on DoorDash.
Does the extra tip come from the consumer or the employer? It comes from the consumer, which is the issue I have, because the problem with the gig economy is not going to be solved by, like, you know, making the price of ordering everything higher, by making, like, by forcing a higher tip. You know, like like the problem here is the wealth extracted by the corporations that manage this whole gig economy bullshit.
Uber Eats orders is causing customers to delete the apps. The ordinance went into effect on January 13th. DoorDash says with the new fee, drivers should get paid more. The company estimates drivers would get paid about $26.40 per hour before tips.
Assuming that you are working constantly, then yes, you're going to be making that much money. But that's not what's happening right now because people are not ordering as much anymore. I've got nothing. I'm not going to sit here for hours for one frickin' order.
One driver shared how much he made this week last year. That was nearly $1,000. But this is what he made last week. You can see about $465. The new ordinance is called the Pay Up Law, and neither of the Seattle City Council members who originally championed it, Lisa Herbold and Andrew Lewis, are still in office. But
I don't know if this data is necessarily reliable, but I gotta say, yeah, like the solution to this issue is definitely not, what if we forced a higher tip on people? Ordering shit via DoorDash is expensive everywhere, but after this law came into effect, like, man.
Mayor Harrell recently praised the law's implementation in a statement describing gig workers as, quote, critical to Seattle's economy.
Mm-hmm. And there was this other ad.
Penny Melson is unstoppable on the battlefields.
Switch weapons.
Here at home, life is
whoa, ow.
A little more contained.
Wait, what game is that, chat?
I'm disabled. Walking is torture for me. It's really painful. And I can only go so far. Groceries becomes a struggle. No, we're not going to shop now.
So she relies on grocery delivery services.
And I've used them for years. I love Instacart. There's the tip.
But lately, Instacart's
service fee.
Not loving her back.
Regulatory response fee.
Check out her latest receipt.
Item subtotal, service fee tax, checkout bag fee tax, deals discount, regulatory response fee tax.
It's the new one. That is that fee. And look at this, they taxed it.
A month ago, her receipt didn't have that regulatory response fee, and she says it was a lot more manageable.
That $22 eats into the money that I would have to be able to get essentials.
But apps like Instacart are saying they have to now add that fee.
I love the Seattle skyline so much, man. It's so unique and beautiful. Even the inner city highway, even the 5, running right through it, like it runs like under most of the nearby infrastructure. So it's like this little valley cut out in the middle of downtown. It's really cool to look at.
Saying they have to now add that fee as a result of the significant increase in operating costs under this regulation. Many delivery drivers advocated for the ordinance to improve minimum pay for gig workers. The leader of that effort says,
and certainly nothing in the policy requires apps to impose additional fees, to pass those fees on to customers.
She says to blame the app companies.
Okay, so here what they're saying. Wait, so is this in response to a different law? Because I know that one of the I know that one of the laws is just like the flat extra tip. So this is like the additional fee on the thing. Are they going after 2 laws?
Being as a result of decisions made by the apps, really, that both workers and customers are bearing the brunt.
But customers, like Melson, hope they look at the bigger picture.
All right, and then you get to loot them. There are going to be people who stop using the service because we can't afford it. Let's get together and figure out a solution that works for everybody.
A DoorDash spokesperson told me today, quote, "We warned the previous city council that we would likely need to implement a new fee to help offset some of the costs." I also reached out to Seattle City Council early this afternoon, but as of this air date, they have yet to provide any comment. Reporting live in Seattle, I'm Maddie White.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought there was a I thought we were talking about the $5 like auto extra tip. Are we talking about 2 different things? The app-based worker minimum payment ordinance requires network companies to pay the greater of a minimum per mile amount of 44 cents and a minimum per mile amount of 74 cents, or a minimum per offer amount of $5. Oh, I could be wrong here. These aren't applied directly to the consumer. They're applied to the corporation. The corporation just automatically, like, gives it to the consumer. I literally have seen in gig economy apps that I've opened before, it's saying like, here's a $5 fee that's being added. There's nothing we can do about this. So I guess they were lying, which isn't surprising. My understanding was that it was automatically applied as like an extra tip, not something they were passing down directly. Man, the gig economy is so... Maybe I'm okay with this then. I don't know. It's probably a good thing that the services of gig economy workers be more expensive, because the world we're creating is an unsustainable one, and the gig economy is... But it's also hurting gig economy workers, so... Because, like, if fewer people are using it, there are so many levels at which this is... this is wrong, and this is like, it's turtles all the way down. DoorDash's latest data show that just over 2 weeks since the pay regulations launched, consumers have placed 30,000 fewer orders in the DoorDash marketplace, with expectations it'll worsen and cause significant decline in the revenue for Seattle businesses. You can't hurt gig economy apps without hurting the gig economy workers in the short term. There have to be ways. I just don't know how invasive you would have to make the laws. I think you would just have to make it not a gig economy. You just have to have them be paid wages for the time that they're on. But then it's not the gig economy, and it's a totally different service. The thing is, there's truly no way to have this be a profitable business without abusing people. The gig economy is explicitly and unavoidably abusive to workers. You know, I don't know if you can regulate around that. Gig economies feel like scams. I mean, they kind of are in a lot of ways. Yeah. I don't know if I have a solution for this. I think I'd have to think about it. Like, there are solutions, but it'd be difficult to implement. Chicano it's not without putting price controls, but price controls are a huge no-no. You don't want price controls. Well, you do in some cases, but the idea of implementing price controls at a city level sounds insane to me. You can do that with something regionally locked like land, like there are versions of rent control that can function, but the idea of implementing that for something like the gig economy sounds like insane. I'd have to think about it. It sounds very complicated. Look at this Twitter account, dude. Things we're loving this Valentine's Day. Independent contractors, small businesses, app-based services, flexible job. Thank you, Washington Alliance for Innovation and Independent Workers, or work. Wonderful. This might all be a giant psyop. After all this information we're getting about how, like, Seattle gig workers can't pay rent or whatever, you know, we might be getting, like, very filtered information. So maybe gig workers in Seattle are doing better than they seem to be based on this. Who knows? Maybe I'll look into it in the future. Being a 1099 contractor is not a small business. I'm pretty sure that in America, small business means you have less than 500 employees. I don't know what it says about contractors. Maybe it's less than 500 employees and consistent contractors, or maybe contractors aren't factored in at all. Maybe Uber is a small business because it has, like, all the contractors. Well, there's Uber corporate, I guess. Wouldn't competition fix this, a co-op gig app? No, it doesn't work. We've seen this happen before, where anytime a new gig app opens up, its costs are initially very low, but they're only trying to undercut the market with the seed capital they got from their, like, initial investment, you know? Like, initially, Uber was really cheap, but once they became the monopoly, they inflated prices. Then Lyft, you know, was a thing, and Lyft was really cheap, but then they inflated prices. Like, this happens every time. There's no, you know, no getting around it. A lot of these people might not be contractors much longer. Thanks, Biden. Yes, the Biden administration actually has been getting pretty active and loud about the gig economy. Could we get some more like positive Department of Labor news, please, to balance out all the bad news? Beginning to think capitalism is bad, actually? What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous. The new rule is set to take effect on March 11th. Nice. We'll see how that goes. But a co-op would never need to raise prices past what inflation and cost demanded. That's not true. Co-ops still want to make a healthy profit, after all. Co-ops don't solve capitalism. They would still want to... What if cities like Seattle started running their own delivery portals? It would be similar to how cities run farmers markets, providing a venue for people to connect and trade. I think that something like that could be pretty fantastic, especially if it was limited to stuff like groceries. I think you could make a really strong argument for cities running their own like grocery delivery system, where if you have like a large order to make, you can run it through them and they deliver it, because that's also an accessibility thing. That's good. That is a good thing. Have them run it like at cost. You would still pay to use it, but they would run it at cost using like city infrastructure and the permissions given. I don't think the city should be doing stuff like that for like restaurant orders. They would have to like have a limited number of like signed up businesses that they run it through, like grocery stores or whatever, you know? Did they Black Caucus? It's a good idea, I think. I think that could be done well. EBT free delivery or something like it, yeah. Have a minimum order. Well, it would just there is a tax distinction between like food that you get that's not prepared like at a grocery store and food that is prepared like at a restaurant. Like there's a tax distinction there. You don't pay taxes on groceries, you do at a restaurant. So, you know, I think it'd be pretty easy for the state to distinguish between like which you'd go for. Okay, let's bring back fruit carts and milkmen. Absolutely.